kind of doubled down on the Brock Purdy game manager versus game changer conversation, basically saying that the reason he still thinks he's correct that Brock Purdy is a game manager is because in order to be a game changer, and this is for Cam Newton's opinion, he has to be the best you have to be the best player on your team. And he said not only is Brock Purdy not the best player on his team, but he's not even top 5 best. Nick Wright, I think, went on First Things First, also went on a show with Damon Bruce, who I know does like 49ers content. He named 5 people. Actually, I think now that I think Nick Wright named 5. I think Cam Newton said he's not even 10th best. So I thought you and I, what we could do is I could ask you, 1, do you think Brock Purdy is best on his team? And 2, how many people do you think are ahead of him, if not? Because I think we both agree that he's probably not the best player on the team.
And he's not the best player on the team, but I don't think he has to be. Like, that's not what he's designed to be. It's not who he is, and he knows that. Like, but for me, it's literally Brock Purdy. There's a goalpost here, right? This is Cam Newton. Anytime Brock Purdy's proved him wrong, he moves it this way. If he's proved, and the next time he moves it this way, it's like, bro, Cam, you initially said he's not a game manager because he can't win a game for the Niners. You say this, and then it's like, you know what? He has to win from behind. Okay, well, he did that. Well, you know what?
Not enough. That wasn't enough.
Yeah, like it wasn't 5 points wasn't enough. Okay, he did it from 17, and now it's, you know what? He can't be a game manager because he's the 10th best. No, shut up, bro. Like it's sickening. In like, yes, if you're not a fan of Brock, that's cool. Like, I'm not. Everyone knows. Everyone knows. I'm not 100% like, oh, he's the guy. Like, he's legit. I think he's a damn good quarterback. I think there's a chance that he could potentially be there. Like, I want to see more, but I'm not going on social media like, you know what, he needs to do this. Like, you know, I just watch what he's doing, and he's balling the fuck out. Like, he's proven every week, proving me wrong as every week plays. Like, and that's great to see. Admit it, Cam. Like, it's fine. Is he the best player? No. Is he the 5th best player? Probably not. He might be around like 8, 9 if we did a complete breakdown. I know for sure off the top of my head.
Christian McCaffrey.
CMC, Trent Williams.
I
would have.
I'd put Debo.
Would
you put Debo?
I'd put Debo.
Kittle.
Fred Warner. I think Charvarius Ward's up there.
Nick Bosa.
So it's like, that's already 7 right there. So it's 8, and like, you could argue like
Brandon Ayuk. We didn't say Ayuk.
You could argue Ayuk. Like, that's an argument.
This is where you start like arguing, maybe.
Yeah, that's where you start arguing.
What about, like, I think normally maybe talent wise you'd put Eric Armstead up there, but Armstead missed a lot of games. Kittle? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we say Kittle. So that's already like 8 players. So it's like, but it's funny because if you put
we have 3 more, like, we could easily put him 10. Like, we're kind of arguing like 10 to 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But like,
there's definitely people who would say that Brandon Ayuk is, you know, better.
And the crazy part is, you could put any of those players we just named on another team, and they're probably the best player, if not the second best player on that team. Yeah. So it's like, I agree. We're knocking Brock for being on a stacked roster now. Like, that's what makes a game changer. If we look at Cam Newton's team, his second year, he wasn't the best player on his team. If we look at guys like Tom Brady wasn't the best player on the second. I mean, those years, actually, they had defenses that were stacked. Like, looking at it, I'm like, wait, he wasn't the best player. Like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, I'm not comparing Brock to Tom. Like, I don't, like, I hate bringing up Hall of Famers and like the best quarterbacks of all time. But it's like, when you make a conversation or an argument, it's like you're killing your entire argument, because some of the best quarterbacks to ever win a Super Bowl weren't the best player on their teams that year. For example, Eli Manning. Eli Manning wasn't the best player on his team any of the years. Like, let's be real, but like, he's won 2 Super Bowls, and you don't have to be the best quarterback or the most talented in the world to win a Super Bowl. You just have to
be a game changer, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I think that was the and I guess this is just like a difference in how we would define these things. But with Cam Newton's comments, for him to be like, well, he can't be a game changer unless he's the best player on his team, I was like, I don't think that's true. Because if we were saying that Chris McCaffrey and Trent Williams are, obviously more, the better players, I still don't think that they win that game without Brock Purdy's legs. And so I think if you put like a replacement level quarterback, just like any other quarterback on the team, they might not have that physical talent that got them to that win. So I think just like him having that physical ability does set him kind of on a tier above like a Jimmy Garoppolo or someone who you would consider more of a game manager. And obviously those people turn the ball over. But like a Ryan Tannehill or something, like just a replacement level quarterback who can, manage Kyle's system. It's like Brock Purdy is breaking records under the 49ers, yes, because of the talent around him and because of the coaching around him. But why is he optimizing those systems around him more than any other quarterback on this team could and has? And that is because there is an extra layer to him. Now, that doesn't mean he's Patrick Mahomes or he's, top five, an elite quarterback. But to me, it does. I don't know why there's like, to me, it shouldn't be confusing that there's a distinction between like middling average player and like elite player. Like he's in between those. Like I think he's better than average and I don't think he's quite elite yet. I don't really even understand how people get so hung up on that, but it is a huge area of like contention both ways, I feel like.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate because then, like for example, because we're both arguing the same thing. So like just to the devil, like the person on the other side would be like, well, if you have someone who's average or replacement level, they're not down 17 at half. They're off. He doesn't
Yeah.
throw an interception like at the half. Their offense is scoring points and not settling for field goals. Like they
Okay,
would
I'm
argue.
interested. I following that thought
Oh,
experiment.
Jake Moody.
Yeah, but I'm also true. But I'm also interested because when people kind of talk about his comeback drives, one of the things they talk about is that Browns game, right? Not only that, the last two that he's just had. Well, he played objectively really bad in that Browns game, but most people will put that on Jake Moody. Do you think that if Jordan Love comes back in that game, doesn't lose his mind and throw an interception? Because it looked like they were walking down the field up until like he gave the ball away, and they definitely could have either tied it up or scored a touchdown right there. If the Packers win that game, is it a guarantee that Brock Purdy is a starter next year, or do you think it's possible Kyle Shanahan is calling Kirk Cousins? Not
I said it
necessarily
at
that
both
he
halves. I said
what?
it at both halves. Actually, I said, you know what? I said Niners are down in the Green Bay game. It was because of it looked like it was because of Brock. Like he was not playing good that game, right? Like in the first half, he wasn't playing up to his level. And I said it sent a text like two of my good friends, and I was like, you know what? If Brock doesn't come back and change his game around, you're gonna have thoughts of you just lost to the seventh seed, the youngest team in the NFL, with a quarterback who's in his first year starting, and then you're gonna start having those conversations. Is he the quarterback? Internally, externally, national media wise, like was it a fluke season? Like that's the conversation. Luckily he turned it around, so we don't have to have that conversation. But then
Yeah,
the same thing happened in that Lions game. I had a Vikings fan we're watching the game with, a family friend. He goes, well, looks like Kirk Cousins is your guys' quarterback. Like at half,
yeah,
like we're down 17.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
whoa, you guys will have Kirk Cousins because it's people understand
Because
like Kyle's love for Kirk, but I also think like I think if Kyle does go out and sign someone, it's a big mistake. But also at the same
yeah,
time, if Brock shows you and you're Kyle Shanahan that he can't win those kind of games or win the Super Bowl in a shootout fashion with the high level quarterbacks, it's also what you're in the situation with Jimmy Garoppolo a couple of years ago, a quarterback that couldn't win those kind of games in those moments, right? Like you're kind of
yeah.
back to square one. So at the end, I don't know. Like I hope we win the Super Bowl so we don't have to have those tough conversations. To be honest with you, like
And
because
see,
those are hard conversations.
the thing is, I do think for for me, and this is just my opinion personally, I think if they lose to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, Brock Purdy is still guaranteed the starter next year, and it's not really a question because there's no like there's kind of this feeling of there's no shame in losing to the best of the best. Not that they're like, I do think it's so incredibly pivotal. I think Kyle Shanahan wants it. I think this team wants it. I think this team needs it to kind of justify every decision that they've made. The Christian McCaffrey trade that we'll talk about later, Jed York already celebrated. The choosing Brock Purdy as a starter, trading away Lance, all these things, going out and getting, signing Hardgrave. I think winning the Super Bowl obviously validates all that, just their entire strategy over the last, the entire Kyle Shanahan regime. But I do think if they lose, there could be like this feeling of like, no, like the reason I think it's questionable if Brock Purdy is the starter if they lose against the Packers is you were supposed to blow those teams out. So at halftime, when you're trailing, when you look horrible, and also, and maybe I'm having some sort of like, bias, and you could refresh my memory, but it does feel like when the 49ers have lost and scored, only 17 on offense, or just lost in general, like it's been because of the quarterback. So not every win is because of the quarterback, although some of them are. Like I said, I think a huge part of that comeback has to do with Brock Purdy's legs. I don't think they win that unless he has that extra level. I'm advocating, like, I don't want people to get it wrong. I'm advocating that I think Brock Purdy is a step above a game manager and they should not trade him. But the reason that I understood the like devil's advocate side of if they would have lost that Packers game I don't think it was a guarantee that Brock Purdy is a starter, because you start questioning, can he elevate this team? Because anytime this team has lost, it's been because of the quarterback. Maybe, and maybe some wins have been because of him, but not every win. Where I think in the Super Bowl, there's going to be more of a acceptance because it is the Chiefs, and the 49ers aren't favored by 10, and all that. Obviously, depending on how it looks. If Brock Purdy goes out there and throws 4 interceptions in the first half, you're like, what the fuck? But I don't anticipate that's going to happen.
Brock throws 4 interceptions at the half like he did
Sam
to the
Darnold
Ravens.
Time, baby.
Sam Darnold. There's someone who bet Sam Darnold MVP. Like,
stop.
There's legitimately someone I have to follow. I'll find on Twitter. Someone bet it. It was like, because his money line is outrageous, so they put like $20 on it or something like that, and they would cash out like mega. So it's like, for them, it's like, oh, just $20. But like, man, like that would be insane. 2, man, it's a hard conversation because like you could put wins and losses on quarterbacks, right? Like that's usually quarterbacks get the blame and they also get the glory and the fame because of it. But what doesn't go into count is like the game isn't lost on one drive, in my opinion. Like the game is lost on a variety of plays and a variety of drives, not just one drive. Like, because for example, if you go back and look at the Lions, we can't sit here and say, you know what, they lost because of this one play, right? Like they were up 17. They lost because of not going for it on 4th downs like 3 times. Or going for it on 4th downs a couple times.
Dan Campbell, Jared Goff not knowing they were playing freaking the fumble. Like there's like multiple. And I agree, by the way, when I'm saying that like a lot of the losses happen to be on games that Purdy, turned the ball over or didn't play well. Even within those games, I would also say Kyle Shanahan didn't have a great game plan. Wide receivers had certain drops. The defense has not been nearly as dominant as the defense that we're used to on this 49ers team. So I'm not saying that I think that every loss is on him. I'm just saying when we're talking about people who are having thought experiments of like, is this guy the guy? It seems to be the reason he's qualified as like a game manager is because if he does just manage the game and not like turn the ball over and risk something, that they will win. And the reason that I think the Super Bowl is different is because I don't think that that's true for the Super Bowl. I think in order to win the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, even if he managed the game perfectly, didn't turn the ball over, did exactly the game, I think there's going to have to be an extraordinary play. I think he's going to have to utilize his legs or make some sort of tight window throw, because I think against a team like that, defense like that, a quarterback that can score as quickly and as well as Patrick Mahomes can, I think that there's going to have to be a next level play where even if Brock Purdy just played solid, it wouldn't be enough. which is kind of why I think even if they lost, there wouldn't be like this whole like, oh, we need a new quarterback, Brock Purdy type thing.
But I think also at the same time, like the 49ers have shown that they're willing to upgrade at any position at any moment, right? For example, Jimmy, no one was expecting a trade up. Trey Lance, no one was expecting him to be traded right away, get
Yeah.
benched or after the injury, and
I
Brock
don't know.
Purdy to
Jed
be the
York
guy.
maybe knew. We'll get to that.
That's a great conversation, and hope when we do get to that. But like,
Yeah, we'll do that right after this.
but then no one expected Kyle Shanahan to say, "I picked up the phone and called Tom Brady, see if he's willing to come play for us this year." Like
Yeah,
you don't
people
say
aren't
that kind
talking
of
about
stuff.
that. Like people sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like this is such a like any other year with all the quarterback chaos that's been going on, this would have been a main topic. Going into this year, not last year before Brock Purdy, like after Brock Purdy started, did so good, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh." Brock Purdy went on, was it with Rich Eisen? Where did he go on? It was like 2 weeks ago.
No, it was so during the every game, like the media meets with certain players. So like
Mhm.
it was during, I want to say it was before the Packers game. I thought that's when it
Okay.
came out. And like when he met with the media at that
Yeah.
time, he was like, "Well, yeah, like
Kyle
that's when
Shanahan.
Brock started saying a little too much." It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, the media didn't know that because Kyle and John and
Will you tell our viewers what he said, just for people? Because I swear people really have not talked about this enough.
so
That
Kyle Shanahan essentially, so like paraphrasing everything, um, Kyle Shanahan essentially told um Brock Purdy, you know what? We're gonna roll. We're gonna see if we can sign Tom Brady. You're still our guy, but you're gonna be the backup, um, because you're injured right now. But like, you don't say that unless you're like, if you're sold on someone, and they should have been last year, because Kyle said he was sold after 3 games.
yeah,
Remember, he said he was sold after
yeah,
3 games, and he knew he was the real deal before then. Um,
yeah,
so he went on and he was like, "Well, because you're coming off an injury, we're going after Tom Brady, but you're gonna be the backup." I
yeah.
was like, "Okay, well, it's
Basically
coming off an
saying like you
injury,
can be
like,
the starter unless we get Tom Brady, and
yeah,
if we
like,
get Tom Brady, you're the backup, and we're gonna try to get Tom Brady, which means Tom Brady said no. First of all, it was also kind of crazy because I think the narrative, and not even narrative, I think the truth up until this year was that Tom Brady might have been willing to come to the 49ers, and the 49ers were the ones that didn't take advantage of these opportunities. And I kind of think it's funny now that he like actually retired, they finally call him up and he's like, I'm actually done now.
I
But
blame Tom Brady's
yeah.
friends for him not being a 49er right now, because if it wasn't for his friends and family throwing him a retirement party, he would have came and played. Like, because he literally said, like, it was crazy because, like, I want to say 3 weeks before that news came out for Tom Brady potentially being the Niners quarterback, he was like,
Yeah.
he was asked a question like, oh yeah, he was asked on a podcast, have you had like thoughts of coming back to play? He goes, actually, he goes, in March or May, there was a few teams that were asking me if I would be willing to come and play, but my friends had just thrown me a retirement party, so I had to stay retired because it would have been a waste of a retirement party. So I was like, this dude, he was thinking about it hard. Like he was like, another ring. Like he was thinking about it hard. The fact that his friends threw him a retirement party, it's all their fault. He's not our quarterback this year. Because he still could play. I guarantee you, if Tom stood it up, he could still play right now. But yeah, it's just interesting.
Would
Like,
you rather have Tom? Would you rather have Tom how he looked on the Buccaneers his last year or Brock Purdy now?
I thought Tom Brady didn't look bad actually, so I would definitely
Okay.
take Tom, because like we also got to remember, you're putting Tom Brady to be just the, like, his presence and his experience on the field. Like his talent was still there.